You know,
I used to get a lot of.
Thank you.
I don't think so.
We used to go to these courts.
Guys, we're gonna go ahead, it's 5:30, with Mary Elizabeth has driven an hour and a half to get to us.
Okay.
So we're gonna, have a little work session, learning session, about the fleet. And Miss, Mary Elizabeth has asked, this is a sample sheet, if anybody don't have one,
I think I passed the rest
pass them
out.
all out. This is a sample sheet that she had, she's gonna go over with us, so she's gonna do some Q&A and just kinda go over some stuff with you.
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to you,
Absolutely, thank you,
because
thank you.
I know your time's valuable, and you
I
got a long
appreciate
way to drive home.
That is all right, that is all right. I had some good windshield time today. So, like you mentioned, my name's Mary Elizabeth. I do live in the Nashville area, Nolensville, so not too far from here. But I am with Enterprise Fleet Management. So most people know Enterprise as the Enterprise Rent-A-Car. We are simply the sister division, the sister company to Enterprise. I've been with the company for, it'll be 18 years and about 3 weeks. It's my only job out of college. I started when I was roughly 5, so you can do the math. But no, I've been here almost 18 years. I've been in this specific division for, it'll be 10 years in September. I partner with clients all across the state, so I can go anywhere from Tri-Cities, or I guess the Bristol, Tennessee area, all the way to Memphis. I can even go down a little bit into Mississippi, Arkansas, and then also dip into Georgia, down to about Dalton area. So got a pretty large territory. My responsibility is to bring on new business for us here in Tennessee. And then I have counterparts that manage the business once my team brings it on. There are roughly 5 or 6 of me. I am the most tenured of our group that brings on new business. So as Steve and I were talking, we talked a couple years ago, about a year and a half ago roughly, as we are starting right during the middle of COVID. So I think that also kind of, changed our timing a little bit. But we partner with not only commercial clients, so construction, electrical, healthcare, education. But we also have started to really grow our government presence as well. Here in Tennessee, just some of the ones that you're definitely going to know about, but we actually partner with the town of Livingston, with Mayor Hayes. We've got a partnership with him. We've been with the town for, I'm going to say 3 to 4 years. I could be off. But Curtis and I have a great relationship. I think he's retiring at the end of August. So we've got a relationship with Livingston, with Crossville, again, also very close to you guys. And then several others though, Knox County, Hamilton County, City of Chattanooga, Hawkins County Board of Education. There are several that we partner with across the state. And the reason folks have come on board with us is because typically there's not a plan. For better or worse, there's no plan when it comes to their vehicles, and our job is to really help create the plan, help you execute it, and allow your vehicle fleet to be refreshed without strapping you of a huge cash outlay. Most of what we see is, for better or worse, right or wrong, government entities tend to buy vehicles and hold on to them for about 12 to 15 years. It's the typical frame that we see. The only thing that I see get replaced a little bit faster are police units. Those vehicles are on the road more. They've got more mileage on them, especially police units. They are driven all the time, especially in the counties for sure, where you've got, I don't know what your mileage radius is, but they're on the road quite a bit. So those vehicles tend to get rotated out a little bit quicker, still not probably where they are optimal efficiency. And so our job really is to do what we do for our 2 million plus vehicles on the company side with Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and really just bring those resources down to our clients on the fleet management side to see if we can make you guys any more efficient. Can your fleet be healthier? Can it be safer? And can it maybe save you some money along the way? COVID threw a wrench, as it did with probably everything in every industry. It also did with ours. Prior to 2020, government entities were buying vehicles less than anybody else could. And that's still the case a little bit, but most of your manufacturers have decreased the amount of incentive that they offer to government clients Pre-2020, there were incentives offered up to $10,000 on government, vehicles. Now that is definitely backed off some because of supply and demand, and they simply just don't have to offer that much money anymore. And also with COVID came longer lead times. I'm sure in personal lives, you had to have felt some of these, right? Longer lead times, shortage of product, whether it was a car or whether it was an air conditioning unit, something, everybody felt it. So we're just now starting to come out of that piece, 4 years, but here we are. So we're starting to get a little bit better. Lead times are starting to shorten again, so we're gonna start seeing vehicles a little bit quicker. Pricing is gonna start to right size a little bit. It will never go back to pre-COVID, from a vehicle standpoint. Again, I think they figured out they just don't have to. And incentive levels are probably never gonna be as high as they were. But we are back in the time frame of being able to move some vehicles rather quickly to get you guys again in a healthier position. So as Steve and I were talking, the thought was, could I come out here and again, participate in your work session, which thank you for letting me join, answer some questions, tell you about what it is we do. I do have a sample of a profile we just put together for the city of Laverne. One of my counterparts is actually in the process of presenting to their board. Within the next, I think they missed the June board meeting just from a timing standpoint, but it's a program for them that's not gonna get implemented until after their fiscal year anyways, on July 1 when their budget goes into effect. I know we're in budget season. I'm very used to that. Most of our government clients that are partners with us, I brought them on, so I'm very used to the government cycle and the government, the budget process. One thing, I will be as transparent as possible for as much as I know. One process that has changed in the last couple of years, it started on January 1 of 2022, and Steve, you're probably more maybe familiar with this, is the comptroller process. The comptroller, as you probably all know, is very involved in some of its municipalities' decision-making. Vehicles was not left off of that. They're in charge, or I guess they have the overall approval and say when it comes to leasing vehicles.
Yeah, it has to go by the value of the vehicle.
Well, and it has to get approval from the comptroller. And what we've figured out, because again, we've brought on customers since then, is what we've figured out, their main goal is, and they do have your best interest in their position, but the main thing they are worried about is interest when it comes to leasing vehicles versus outright purchasing vehicles. So what we have figured out with them is they have basically asked for their entity. So for example, if you guys wanted to move forward with us months down the road or whatever that looked like, they would ask you go to 2 or 3 different banks in Livingston or right around to see what would an actual, I'm gonna think maybe a bond note, or I'm gonna say the wrong word, but if you were to go request financing from a bank, what percentage interest rate are they gonna give you? And then typically what we've been doing is we've just been figuring out a way to match that interest rate. And that seems to be what is the biggest concern, to make sure that its municipalities are getting a fair deal, for lack of a better term. So what we've done is we've just done that, right? That is the way, I'm gonna say, around the comptroller process, or the way that we are working with them to make sure that their municipalities are staying in line with the budgeting standpoint. Ours is a leasing structure, so to kind of start from top to bottom, we handle everything from acquisition all the way to disposal. I can handle all vehicles minus fire trucks, ambulances, and school buses. That's about the 3 categories that we can't work with just due to liability reasons, and we're not the expert in those vehicles anyways. Other vehicles that potentially maybe we would have to look at their gross vehicle weight rating would probably be some of your larger trucks, maybe with dump bodies, or I don't know, F-750s, 8, things like that, and maybe out of our wheelhouse. Our bread and butter is truly your 1-ton pickup trucks and below. So your F-350s, your Silverado 3500s, if they've got utility bodies on them, service beds, that and below is where we perform the best. So anything from a small sedan to an SUV, police units, we can do those.
And you called here a while back that you had some available.
Yep.
I had Tim get in touch with you.
Yep, and that was several months back.
Yeah.
We work with all manufacturers, so if the city or if the county prefers Ram, GM, Ford, we work with all of them. We don't have a preference. our main goal is to show you who is the lowest total cost of ownership. We do try to pull the emotion out of things and make it more of an objective analysis for you to see. And most of the time, again, you're just gonna see our recommendations based on cents per mile. But again, we will handle all those vehicles for your police units. We can upfit them like they need to be, so striping, cages, gun racks, radios, you name it. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the west side of the state, city called Union City. Okay, I'm from Humboldt, so Union City is fairly close for me, but we've actually, I think this is about our 25th police unit that we're upfitted, that we're doing for them right now. They've been doing the Ford Explorers, Interceptors, and they've also just added 8 of the F-150 responder trucks into their fleet. So we're getting all those upfitted and getting those to them. But we work directly with the manufacturers to order the vehicles that are needed, specifically per the department's request. We again handle the funding piece of that. So where that really helps from a government standpoint is, and the reason so many government entities get behind on their purchases is because if Overton County needed to purchase 10 units, that's probably somewhere upwards of about $500,000 in cash outlay with how vehicle pricing is today, especially if we're talking about some police units. A lot of times that's not in the budget. So from a leasing standpoint, it basically allows you to let your cash go further down the road or get more vehicles with the same cash. And again, that's kind of why we put everything into an analysis model so you can see it. One of the differences is in my leasing structure, and I don't know the Chevy dealership I passed on the way in, but let's just call that Chevy dealership's leasing structure. If you were to go lease a vehicle for yourself, typically that comes with mileage penalties, wear and tear penalties. You got to keep it for the term that you signed for, and then when it's over, you go back, you give them the keys, you walk away, and you're done. But what's happened is you basically rented that vehicle. You have no benefit of the equity that you built in that vehicle other than you've got to drop the keys off and leave. With ours, it's a different story. Again, no mileage penalties, no wear and tear penalties, no early term penalties. Whatever that vehicle has from an equity value standpoint, that belongs to Overton County. Not Enterprise, not a dealership, not the manufacturer. That is one of the biggest differences in how a lot of these models work, because it's putting money back into your vehicle fleet fund from vehicles that you sell. And if you sell them at the right time, again, based on the recommendation we would make, vehicles are worth a lot more money than selling in 10 to 12 years down the road when you're really just trying to get rid of it. So again, that's the acquisition, the funding piece. As far as, and I'm gonna ask some questions as I go through this, but I'm assuming that from an acquisition standpoint, the county's currently just purchasing from the state contract,
Just whatever's available.
but they purchase off the state
Deals,
contract,
yeah.
okay. And then paying cash would be my assumption, okay. Does the county have a maintenance garage?
No.
No, okay, so from a maintenance standpoint, they're just going to local vendors, okay. So we also have a maintenance program for your existing units, because obviously we need to help with those while, if you guys decided to transition to us, you're still gonna have a fleet of existing units, because we're not gonna say replace them all in 1 year, it's never gonna happen. But we partner with local vendors in the area to perform your maintenance. So more than likely, the folks you already go to are probably already partners of ours. And again, we partner with shops all across the country. We negotiate on behalf of our clients. We are continuing to monitor the repairs. We probably bother them quite a bit to make sure vehicles are getting in and out of service. And we're also tracking those repairs. So again, the thing is, we want to make sure you're not overpaying. You're not paying for duplicated work that may have been done 3 months ago at a different vendor, but because they don't share computer systems, they don't know that, but we do. And then all of that tracking feeds into our website and gives us the opportunity to make better recommendations on when to replace vehicles based on data. Vehicle A has cost us $6,000 in maintenance. It's coming up with a repair cost that's gonna say $3,000. It's only worth $4,000. Maybe we don't put the money into that vehicle and we start the replacement process. So we have the ability to help you on maintenance for new vehicles and then also maintenance for your existing fleet as well. What about fuel? Do you have a fuel card? Are they using P cards or
We
county credit
just
cards?
use, a local.
And is it, and so every vehicle's supposed to go to that station?
Well, some have their own fuel tanks on
Okay.
the, on site.
Okay. But other than that, it's at the local gas station with no fuel card, it's just like a,
We have to give a purchase order number and stuff like that. But if you're offsite or something like that, it's you have to buy it and be
yeah.
reimbursed.
So let me ask this, are there any checks and balances when it comes to the fuel purchase program for the county? And what I mean is, are we sure that the fuel that's being purchased by the county is going into county vehicles?
Yes. It's under video surveillance.
Okay, that's where I was going with that, so that's
The
good
gallons
at
are
least.
counted, yeah.
Okay,
They have to
perfect.
write down how many gallons that they got out of it.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
tracked.
We utilize a fuel card provider. I'm not sure if anybody's heard of a company called Right Express or
Yeah.
WEX, WEX. They may have come and done a presentation at some point. Okay, it's who we partner with. It's not a requirement, but it is who we partner with. And again, the reasoning behind it is the checks and balances it puts in place for its customers. There is the ability to turn certain cards off. It's not a blanket shutdown, but it's a matter of if you've got, I don't know, someone from a specific department that really shouldn't be fueling up past 6 o'clock or on the weekends. The card has the functionality to cut the card off at a certain time. It also, just like you mentioned, it will, it's a 15-gallon tank and it's someone put 18 gallons of gas into that. Where do the other 3 go, right? So again, it's not gonna stop that purchase because WEX isn't that smart, but what it does do is it will flag it in the future and we can say, okay, what happened here? Maybe they were filling up a lawnmower, for county purposes or whatever that may be. But every vehicle would be assigned their own fuel card, and every employee that has access to the fuel card would have their own PIN number. So basically, when they go to Exxon, Shell, whoever we've got here, they will put in the odometer off the vehicle, and then they will put in their specific PIN number. Again, that tells us who's fueling up, where they're fueling up, and to keep everything kind of tracked and balanced. All that data also feeds into the enterprise website, again, giving our management team more data to provide better recommendations for you guys when we start looking at vehicles moving forward. Okay. And then is the county self-insured for vehicles?
Yeah.
I know most of my local, like Livingston, for example, is insured by PEP, Public Entity Partners. But most of my county governments are self-insured. And then one of the last kind of life cycle questions, if you realize I've kind of gone from how do you buy it all the way around to how do you sell it. My assumption is we're getting rid of them through gov deals.
Mm-hmm.
And is that driven by, is the vehicle about to fall apart? Is it driven by anything other than it needs to go?
It needs to go.
Okay. When it gets to that point, gov deals is probably a great option. There's not a lot of value left to a 200,000+ mile vehicle that's 12 years old. So gov deals is a great resource for that. Again, our whole thought is let's get rid of it before it gets to that point. Our average term is going to be somewhere between 3 and 5 years for vehicles. It depends on the mileage pattern, the type of vehicle. I wish we were in some of the pre-COVID era, because at pre-COVID, most of my government clients, for when they were doing half-ton pickup trucks, let's say a half-ton crew cab pickup truck, we were turning around selling it for them about 1 year to 2 years later for more than they paid for it. So they were basically just using that truck rent-free, almost. COVID changed a lot of that. So it changed how we make recommendations. I'm no longer saying, oh, we should keep this truck for 1 year or 2 years. It's probably pushed more to that 3 or 4 year plan. So again, everything that we talk about is adjustable. It is only a recommendation. It is customizable, meaning something that works for the highway department is probably not what's going to work for animal control, whatever that may be. We can get vehicles specific to the department. We can create lease terms specific to that person's operation. And one of the biggest things that we also try to do is, and correct me if I'm wrong for Overton County, a lot of times vehicles get passed down from maybe one department to the next or one person to the next. What that leaves you is leaves you with a fleet that might not even make sense for that specific department, but because there was a, 3/4 ton crew cab truck here and it needed to go somewhere else, well, now it's with a property assessor. That person doesn't need that, right? They probably need a full-size sedan since they're moving around the county that much. So we tend to see that the fleet is probably not right type across the entity as well. And so we look at it as an opportunity to get people in the right vehicles, hold on to them for the right amount of time, and then let's just keep the process going. So again, that is how our program works. Probably one of my longest customers that I personally brought on, I brought on Blount County probably in 2015, but Hamilton County's been with us since 2017, and they've got over 200 units with me right now. Hamilton County Board of Education, they're much smaller, but again, they've got quite a few with us. The city of Chattanooga is with us. So I've got references that we could always reach out to if we need it. But the point of tonight, I think, was just to come and again, allow myself to be introduced to all of you, answer some questions. It's a lot easier when you're face to face and you can just ask questions. And then, like I mentioned to Steve, I've got this sample of what was created for Laverne fairly recently that was getting proposed to their board as well. So with that being said, I'm gonna be quiet for a minute. Before I go into the sample, are there any just random questions?
Cost of vehicles, per vehicle, and doesn't matter what vehicle it is. So-
Cost of vehicle, so you're just asking, so basically how we determine cost is if we factory order vehicles, you guys get invoice costs less any incentive that is available to you as an entity. Should be very similar to what it is today.
We also use Sourcewell.
Correct, and Sourcewell is, we are one of the awarded vendors from Sourcewell as well. We are the highest graded vendor from Sourcewell, which has helped in the past from a contract standpoint of due diligence because they vetted out all of our agreements. So that made that process quite a bit easier.
Most of the dealers are using Sourcewell now.
Yep.
It's the easiest way for us to purchase.
And it's the easiest way for us to partner with government entities. Again, because they vetted out the contracts and the agreements already, I think that the current Sourcewell contract, I'm gonna say goes through 2026. But they can only award it in 5-year increments. So again, we've been awarded that contract the last couple go rounds. It just only goes through 2026 and then it'll get we'll redo it again. But that is how pricing is determined. In Sourcewell, we have specific pricing that is on the Sourcewell page. It sounds like you're probably familiar with Sourcewell. You can go to their Sourcewell and you can see the enterprise fleet management contract and all of the specs there. Where we make our money, and I feel like it needs to be asked. People are probably, where are you making money? We make money directly from the manufacturer. So holdback and finance are two terms that dealerships and manufacturers use. When we order directly from the manufacturer, that money comes to Enterprise Fleet, not to a dealer. So that's one form of profit for us that is not taking anything away from you as the end user. The other two places where we make our profit is going to be through interest and through management fee. And it's important to realize that anytime I ever show you an analysis, that is already included in that. So it's not a matter of, hey, I can save you this, but then we've got these fees. It is all inclusive when we talk about it. The management fee is what pays for myself and my counterpart to keep our lights on to make sure we are coming out and doing the right things for you. Interest obviously is the component as well, but we will do our best to match the interest rate that would potentially be out there. And to be quite honest, interest, not as much recently, but it's been one of the smallest components when you look at a whole pie of things. Interest is one of the smallest. Your operating expenses and maintenance and fuel is your largest piece of a